Hey everyone, it's Ashley Jones, Event Director at Marketing Showcase. Thanks for watching one of our recordings from Marketing Showcase Online. I really hope you enjoy it, and hopefully I'll see you at another one soon.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. So I am Frank. I'm Head of EMEA Marketing at dotdigital. I am really excited to talk to you today about segmentation and especially how you can use segmentation to supercharge your marketing campaigns. Just to start, who are dotdigital? Well, we are a multi-channel automation solution for customer-obsessed businesses. Speed and ease of use is at the core of what we do. And our platform helps you reach your marketing goals through automating faster, reducing costs and growing revenues. And that's why we are trusted by 4,000 plus brands worldwide across many, many different sectors. So let's dive straight in to segmentation. So starting at the beginning, the segmentation is the dividing of data into groups based on a defined criteria. Segmentation literally comes in all shapes and sizes, and it's totally up to you, the user of the organization, what criteria you use to segment. It's normally determined by the need or that desired output that you need to get out of any segmentation projects. So we have already touched on some of this stuff, which is great. So it's good to know we're not maybe starting from scratch, but what are the points that you can actually use to create marketing segments? Well, there are endless options, but for a basic starting point, again, I'll cover over these quite quickly, is you can use demographic data, things like age, gender, location, or use behaviors. So things that you can track online, specifically search behavior, order history, style preferences, or even the stage of the buyer funnel. You can use interests, somebody mentioned, so tailoring the message to things about hobbies, activities, pursuits, things that your audience likes to do in their spare time, that sort of thing. Things like ethical values, sometimes that really means a lot to customers, so take note of those. Lifestyle choices, causes, things like that. All of this can then be further refined by size. So it's all about how broad or how niche do you want to go in your segmentation. So to start with, I'm going to put this presentation into two halves. The first half, I'm going to touch on two quite well-known segmentation models. And I'm going to look for the use cases of building those models and how you can use those to create audiences and ultimately create and drive revenue. So the first is lead scoring. So as a reminder, lead scoring is sometimes called contact scoring. It's the process of assigning numerical values or scores to each lead that comes into your marketing pipeline. These scores ultimately help determine the level of interest in your business, your product, or your service, and they can be used to give insights and really relevant experiences. So I know I've got a few people on, and some of you might be using lead scoring, some of you might not. But if you wanted to get up and running quickly with a lead score model, or you were looking to refine something, I suggest you start with something quite simple. And that would be a behavior versus demographic, or engagement versus suitability. A reminder is that engagement score is all about things created, scores based off downloads, form fills, event attendance, for example. But the suitability score is created on, you guessed it, how suitable that contact is for your business. It could be looking at their job title, the job level, company industry, turnover, if you ask. The combination of these two scores are tracked on a lead score model that can look something like this. So there are a lot of different models and designs based on all different sort of the infrastructure that you use. This is specifically based on dotdigital engagement cloud data. So trying not to state the obvious, a lead score machine is used to score leads. The combination of these scores can help you create a label that you can use in your marketing campaigns, processes, and even sales. But what you do with these scores is really down to you. How letting something do the hard work for you in the background and categorize and takes all that heavy lifting out of your marketing processes, and that really is the dream. It's useful when creating segments, because what you can do is automatically enroll these contacts into as different scores into different campaigns with different triggers. So I'm going to show you some examples of how using different categories you can create sort of different programs for your leads. You do have a lot of choices to make, because you could send all of your very red hot leads straight over to your sales team, or do you want to send the hot ones over as well? Either way, those at the top of this pyramid are the most suitable and the most engaged. So you're really going to want to do something with those as quickly as possible. On the other hand, you should consider the leads that are at the bottom of this pyramid. They may never make it to a fully fledged lead. They might never be suitable, or maybe never cross that threshold of engagement to make it to a lead. But they still might want to sort of hear from you. So you have a question of what you'll do with those leads. When you think about marketing comms, these leads, so your cool and cold ones, they might still want to hear from you. Want to automatically enroll them in business as usual content, things like your newsletter, your blog updates, or general company stories. This can be really good for brand building. But now things start to get interesting with the moving up the pyramid. The job of any lead score model is to score leads, obviously, but what you do to move them up this temperature scale is up to you. So you want to try and get them to be more engaged, and you want to get them to be converted into opportunities. As I mentioned, the further up the scale, the better. But what's even better than knowing that those at the top are so impressed with your business, they're almost biting off your hand to get in touch with you, or to learn more about you. So why not give these people the VIP treatment? Send them a personalized event email, send them a coffee voucher, or set up a sales call if they're a prospect. Remember, this model can also identify your customers too. If that data is in your CRM or your engagement cloud platform, they might be ready to donate some more, buy some more, or up their subscription more. So feel free to give them that VIP treatment and put them in a VIP segment. So let's summarize a little bit on lead scoring and segmentation. A simple lead score model can help you quickly identify those that are most suitable and the most engaged to sell to. It's useful when creating segments with automation, because you can enroll different categories of leads into different campaigns, and all that stuff is happening in the background to allow you to be a bit more reactive with your other campaigns. It can also help you create a snapshot of where your leads, where your contacts, where they are in that buyer funnel at any one time. So the next model I'm going to touch on quickly is RFM modeling, which is effectively creating the data pots representing recency, frequency, and monetary. Why do we need this? Well, it's somewhere to start building your buckets to the start of the road to segmentation. Maybe not all of you will be looking at monetary value, but you can look at the other pots too. Don't forget that monetary could be something like donations. Identifying different stages of the customer life cycle with your data, again, helps you know when to reach out, how to keep them happy. This can either protect your revenue by retention, or drive further revenue with loyalty. So what do these pots look like? So similar to lead scoring, we create categories, and they can have specific names, again, bespoke to your business. But an example could be things like champions. So they bought recently, they buy often, and they spend the most. So those people really need to be rewarded. They could be early adopters of new products, and they'll really promote your brand. High value, they've made big purchases and often, but haven't returned in a long while. Why don't you win them back with renewals or new products? Don't lose them to your competition. You need to talk to them. Then we have things like inactive, so lowest recency, frequency, and monetary. You can revive their interest for the reach out campaign. Otherwise, you can discard. So I'm going to show you 3 quick tactics that you can do with this type of modeling. The first is about awakening dormant contacts. Perhaps your customer hasn't purchased in the last 6 months, or they've stopped their recurring orders. Maybe your user hasn't logged on to their e-commerce platform in 30 days. It could be that their activity has drastically dropped over the past few weeks. Whatever the scenario is, use your RFM model data. You can send them the right message, brings them back before they're lost. An opportunity cost can be massive. Remember, these people have bought from you before and familiar with your brand. Identify the key opportunities to engage. A period of inactivity is the best one, so you can win them back, like something like a quirky holiday or a quirky offer, or something around Black Friday, for example. The second one is to act quickly. There are 2 types of persona that fits within this tactic: recent purchasers and high potential customers. Firstly, the worst thing you can do as a merchant is neglect a new customer. Once a new customer buys, it's your job to follow up with them with a welcome program. These are your hottest contacts who are experiencing a buyer's high. So it's important to act sooner rather than later. This is even more important during things like holiday sales, like Black Friday again, for example. New customers are twice as likely to lapse, but you don't want to go hard and bombard them with customers with countless promotions that can scare them away. So try to be gentle. And finally, it's the VIP treatment. I hope you're seeing a common theme here. You wouldn't treat your best friend like you would a stranger or an acquaintance, and the same goes for your superstar customer. Your best customers have a close relationship with you, so they're entitled to a special treatment. If your message isn't right, you run the risk of losing them and their revenues they generate forever. So just a summary on that. So RFM is data-driven customer segmentation technique that allows marketers to make tactical decisions. RFM metrics are important indicators of a customer's behavior because frequency and monetary affects a customer's lifetime value and recency affects retention. And finally, RFM is all about growing customer value, and that's done by targeting the right customers, the right message at the right time. So in the last couple of slides, I just want to share with you 3 marketing superpowers that you can use to supercharge your segmentation. The first is the establish power. So in order to establish trust and brand confidence, you can segment by job level or function. This allows you to tailor your message and content to different personas. A C-suite level contact is probably looking for thought leadership and industry insight, fresh perspectives, whereas those at an associate level or exec level are probably in need of practical help, education, tips, upskilling content. Become known for cutting through the noise with relevant content and comms, and this will lead to better engagement. The second superpower is the engagement power. Time is of the essence, people say. So how can you use time in your segmentation? Well, you can look at creating data nodes in your campaign, which looks at activity within a 48 or even 24-hour window. You can set up automatic responses to catch your audience at the most engaged. This doesn't have to be email either. You could be targeting on platforms such as social or search. In a nutshell, that's done through targeting the right customers through the right message at the right time. And yes, I've said it again. And finally, the final power is an oldie but a goodie. It's that VIP treatment again. It's the exclusive power. If you know with some confidence who your most loyal customers are, you'll know the ones that you can give them an exclusive offer. Remember, that doesn't have to be a simple purchase through online or in store. It could be your customers that are on the most expensive subscription or have donated the most or in the last 6 months. You can send them a little token of your thanks, and that will really pay dividends for future relationships. And remember, that doesn't have to be things like gifts. It can be event invitations. It could be a key piece of research or content. Give them you have the exclusive power to make them feel special. So to summarize, that's a wrap for me today. To summarize segmentation, I wanted to leave you with some stats to support the importance of using segmentation in your marketing. So firstly, marketers who use segmentation can experience up to 760% increase in revenue, according to the DMA. I mean, that is amazing, right? Secondly, we've seen our own customers report impressive results when it comes to contextually relevant messages versus generic comms. So when they're taking segmentation into their marketing and powering their comms, they're seeing almost a 7 times increase on engagement. And lastly, one dotdigital customer saw an 800% increase in orders by using RFM modeling. So I don't know about, hopefully anybody needs more convincing that segmentation really is a marketing superpower, and the future is bright, the future is with segmentation. At dotdigital, we're all about creating content to help marketers achieve greatness in their campaigns. So if you would like more information specifically on segmentation, we've got this handy guide. You can get it by scanning the QR code now, or all of our content is always hosted in the same place, which is learning.dotdigital.com. So that is it. Thank you. I think we're going to move to some questions now. I'm going to stop sharing and hopefully.
Frank, that was awesome. Thank you so much. Like a good TED talk, to the point, smash it out, bosh. Brilliant. Really good. No messing about. There's lots of stuff in there which I've written down as notes, which I'll be using in my marketing. So really appreciate you coming on and sharing that. We are going to get into question and answers. Just before we do, like I say, in true Marketing Showcase fashion, we have a poll to end today's webinar. dotdigital asking a couple of questions, well, one question here with a few answers for you to choose from. How many of you are actively using segmentation in your marketing campaigns? I'm going to leave that running as we sort of hit the Q&A. I'm just going to encourage people, as I ask these first couple, please, we've got a bit of time. So if this prompts any questions, use the Q&A tab and I'll be happy to ask those of Frank. So Frank, you've given us a lot of information there. There seems to be lots to get going with, but where would you say to start? If I'm going to go away and do something now, what should I be doing?
Yeah, it's a good point. And just to sort of caveat some of the volume of content in there is because the segmentation is applicable to any size business. Any business that's using marketing data can segment it in some way. So a lot to unpack there, but hopefully sparked some things that you can start using. But yeah, absolutely. What can you start doing? I say, what is the next campaign that you've got coming up? And look at it and saying, how generic are these comms going to be? Are we using any dynamic content? Are we sending one blanket email? How are we using a message that's different? If the answer is it looks pretty much the same, then I would say take a step back and think of, can we create one personalization that's for one piece of for one segment? It could be customers based in the UK versus in Europe. It could be those that are marketing managers versus marketing execs. It could be it could just be men and women. It could just be about creating a slightly different experience depending on what you're doing. But I would say the starting point is to say, what's the next campaign coming up and how can we personalize with the segment?
Thank you very much. I think Lee's asked a really good question here. Definitely speaks to me. Would you use multiple segmentation models at once or one at a time? And I just want to say, this can be complicated, and I can start thinking about engagement, demographics, all these things, and it suddenly becomes less impactful almost when I've tried it because I'm doing too much. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, again, it depends on the complexity of your team, of your martech as well. I think sometimes it's very easy to take on the theory and not necessarily be able to execute on it properly. I think that for me, from coming from a dotdigital point of view and using my own experience here, we do try to stick to one model because it's one that can be refined. It's one that you can plug your data into, and these models are constantly evolving and they can be constantly updated. You don't have something that's going to stay fixed for 12 months. So in my point of view, if you're getting started with segmentation, I would try and stick to one model. Whether you're using lead scoring as your only way of segmenting is a different story. We probably don't do that enough, and that's me being brutally honest. We're trying to get a bit better at how we're actually using the scores lead, rather than saying this is an MQL versus this isn't. It's about sort of understanding what we're doing with that data. But one thing I would say is that actually segmentation can be in parallel to a model. So whether you're using RFM or using lead scoring, just having a data point on your data in your CRM that's easy to identify certain segments, I think is definitely the way forward. And whatever automation platform or whatever marketing platform you're going, you can create certain address books, and they could be quite static if you're worrying about taking on a model and almost taking on a huge change management project, because it can be daunting.
Well, following on from that, and you obviously say about you're sometimes limited by your own martech. Emma's asked, are there any add-on tools that this is maybe a bit of a loaded question for somebody coming from your sort of your standpoint, but are there any add-on tools that you recommend for really boosting segmentation? The company in question is a membership organization, and they say they are doing the basics, but they want to build more in-depth profiles on members in the right way without being too top heavy. And they say that their CRM isn't the greatest. So are there any tools, and what would you say to our visitors in terms of going out there and looking at the tech that may be able to drive some of this that you've been talking about?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and I'll answer it in two parts. I think that we live in a really martech heavy society, if you want to call it, and there will be a piece of tech that can do something. I'm very confident on. One thing I would say is that I think that if you're looking at your existing database, my tip is that you start trying to index some of that stuff yourself and see how you can do that, depending on the size of your team. That data, if it's already in your CRM, I don't know which one it is, but if you are struggling using it, you have captured that data. So my first port of call would be like, let's do a data cleanse project. What is the state of our data? Have we got interests? Have we got locations? And start as a starting point. And then, yes, the next step is if we need some data enrichment, then there are many different tech providers that are out there. One thing I would say is that you need to make sure that that MarTech provider is strong in the geography that you have your most data in, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
Personal experience. We've looked at some of those similar things, and we're a global company, but we're UK based, and that's where our data is. Some of these providers couldn't help us enrich that data, so that wasn't working for us. So we've gone internally and we're doing that ourselves. So I would say I would start internally, and then if you're looking to grow and enrich, then I would really look at where the data, where those people are based in, or if you're going to enrich your data to help with segmentation. But if you've got it, try and action it first, which is most easier said than done if you've got a smaller team. But I'd say try and keep it internally first.
I don't know whether you've got the chat open, but that Emma's fed back and said that's very helpful. Thank you. So Nina's asked a really valid question that I think is probably going to speak to a lot of people. They haven't contacted they haven't contacted their data for people who have made orders with us since about Jan or Feb, marketing wise, that is. Their sales team have been in touch. So they've been neglecting them. And I think lots of marketers in the last year have found it tough to stay in touch for many different reasons. But what would you suggest for the content of an email to kind of send to them and start to nurture them back into the ecosphere, whatever word you want to use?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And I could think of a couple of things there. So one, depending on the nature of your business, and one of the options is to just say, well, one thing we've done in a while is, we haven't spoke to you in a while. Maybe something about updating preferences. Do you still want to hear from us? What are your interests? Why don't you use this as a time to say, we want to deliver you relevant content, so tell us what you want to hear. As a marketer myself, sometimes honesty is quite well received, and I'm thinking, if I want to stay up to date with the latest news or information from you, being asked that question is great. You could do that with a simple sort of survey form. So it could be, do you want to hear our company updates from the newsletter? Do you want to hear our thought leadership if you do that? Do you want to subscribe to our blog? Almost reach back out to them to say, we want to make sure that relationships continuing. What do you want to hear from us? That's quite a good tactic that can work. The other one would be to potentially go back with a bit of more of a reason to, we've been working on sort of creating some new content, and just going back out to them to say, this is what we've been working on, almost having an excuse while you've been in the background. But I think for me personally, sometimes honesty and capturing those data preferences is a great starting point. Not only will that help you sort of segment in the future, it might be an easy touch point to go back out if it's been sort of 6 months since you've last spoken to them.
Thanks. Tina's got in touch and asked or explained that a lot of their customers are very similar. When they look at the personas, they all seem to have similar sort of demographics, geographics, which may be true for a lot of our visitors. So my personal opinion is, surely that can't be the case. I don't know about you, Frank, but there seems to always be a way that you can sort of start to segment. But is there any advice you can give for somebody that's feeling that they're in that position where they really can't differentiate one from another and put people into different pots?
Yeah, potentially, and I know that sometimes that answer isn't sort of screaming in the face. I mean, depending on, similar to the previous point, you could go back out to your audience and say, we want to make sure we're giving you the most relevant content and comms. We really want to hear a bit more about you and your interest, and use that as a bit of a data capture exercise, should it work for your business. And that might help you identify some data points that you may not have thought of before, or that you've not collected. I think that we're all, at the end of the day, no human is the same. We are all slightly different. Yes, we have collections of similarities, and that might be the case for your business. I wouldn't try and get too amped up over, we've got to have all of these different buckets. But what I would say is it might be an opportunity to check preferences, check interest, check that where they sit within your funnel. And if not, maybe think about other ways of personalizing based on things like, I don't know, their business struggles. They might be wanting to, what do they want to get out from you? Is it more sort of educational, growing revenues, protecting things, depending on the size of your business, or if it's a commerce business as well? I would say that there is always going to be a way of doing that. It's probably just the way that you ask that question and what you do with that information is most important. One thing I will say is, make sure anytime you ask a customer a question, you're going to use that data to better you and your campaigns moving forward.
Brilliant. Last question that's in the Q&A falls from Nigel. I'm going to read it word for word. Hopefully it kind of pulls together for you. So what about a loyalty system where customers earn points for pounds spent? Does RFM segmentation replace this?
Not necessarily. I think that if you've got your own sort of reward loyalty system, there's no reason why those two can't come together. What your RFM model will do is create, you'll still see those contacts, and there's no way, depending, even if you've got an integration, or even if you go back to the old sort of VLOOKUP point of view, I don't quite know what systems you're using, but they can definitely complement. And something that we've done at dotdigital is we've actually relaunched RFM, and it's now called ERFM. So what we're trying to do is use engagement data. So similarly, something that might be happening offline, to say that those people are opening the most emails, they're clicking the most emails, they might have they might have a loyalty system in parallel. How does the engagement and maybe your third party data cross with the recency, monetary and frequency model? And there's no reason those two can't work together, and then they probably should, really, especially if you've got a robust loyalty system. You can get that data to prove that those champions are really champions.
Hi everyone, thanks for watching another recording from Marketing Showcase Online. I hope you enjoyed it. Just to let you know, we've got all of the recordings uploaded to our brand new YouTube channel, so go over there and check it out if you want some more great content. We run these events once every month, free of charge, so head over to our website to grab tickets for next month's event. I look forward to seeing you there.